name's Anna, and this is Trinity High School's BBC School Report. The EU referendum is one of the biggest decisions that the British citizens will have to make. To hear more of this topic, let's talk to one of our known experts, Claire. Hi Claire, how are you today?
I'm very well, Anna. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. So our first question for you, Claire, is what is the EU referendum?
The EU referendum is a yes-no vote on whether the UK should leave the EU. It has been dubbed as Brexit. Brexit is a contraction of the words Britain and exit, much similar to the way the Greek referendum was called Grexit.
Thank you, Claire. What is the EU?
The EU is an economical and political partnership involving 28 European countries. It began after World War II to start economic cooperation with the ideas that countries that trade together are less likely to war with each other. It has now become a single market with its goods and people, allowing goods and people to move around as member states as if there were only one country. In addition to that, the EU has its own currency, the euro, which is used by 19 of its member countries. It also has its own parliament in Brussels, Germany, and now sets rules in a wide set of areas, including the environment, transport, consumer rights, and even mobile phone charges.
Okay, what is happening in this moment in time with the EU referendum?
Currently, we're in a campaign period. The Electoral Commission is in charge of making sure it's a fair contest. It will select a designated lead campaign for both the Leave and Remain sides. This is still undecided, but the leading campaigns are Britain Stronger in Europe, which is most likely to be chosen as the Remain campaign, and Vote Leave campaign. But the Vote Leave campaign and Grassroots Out movement are the two Leave campaigns battling out to be chosen.
Okay, we will now move on to the advantages and disadvantages. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of staying part of the EU?
There are many advantages of being in Europe. Some of them are that some of Britain's biggest trading partners are in the EU. More than 50% of our exports go to EU countries, and our membership allows us to have saying on how the trading rules are drawn up. Another advantage is the freedom of movement the EU provides us. Around 1.4 British people live in the EU, and having membership makes moving between the countries and continent incredibly easy. Driving license issues in the EU are also valid in all European countries. A further advantage is the influence the EU provides Britain in the world. The EU is the world's biggest market and plays a role in world trade, climate issues, development projects, and much more. It has the power to take on multinational companies such as Google and Microsoft. At the moment, Britain plays a key role in the EU, and leaving that would see us give up that power. However, there are some problems with the EU. One of these problems is that the policies the EU make aren't always efficient. For instance, a large spending goes onto the common agriculture policy. For many years, this has distorted the agriculture market by placing minimum prices on food. This has led to higher prices for customers and encouraged oversupply.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of leaving the EU?
If we were to leave the EU, there are also many advantages, such as not having to pay into the EU. We currently give more than we directly receive back from the EU, £8.5 billion more. Another thing is that we wouldn't have to let EU nationals through our border, and we generally have greater control of our borders. Finally, the Leave campaign believe that Britain is being held back by the EU. They say there are too many rules on business and charges billions of pounds every year in membership fees for little in return, and that we'd be better off making up our own laws. On the other hand, if we were to leave the EU, we wouldn't really know what we'd be getting ourselves into. For example, if we were to leave, we don't know what type of trade agreement we'd have with countries within the euro. 4 million jobs depend on the EU, and as I mentioned, 50% of exports go to the EU. So the deal that we would make is vitally important for the British citizens.
Our last question for you, Claire, is so who can actually vote in this referendum?
British, Irish, and Commonwealth citizens over 18 who are resident in the UK, along with nationals living abroad who have been on the electoral register in the UK for the past 15 years, can vote. Different from other general elections, members of the House of Lords, Commonwealth citizens in Gibraltar will also be eligible. Citizens from EU countries apart from Ireland, Malta, and Cyprus will not get a vote.
Okay, thank you for your time, Claire. We will now go over to Anna with the weather.